in your view, what makes a really good entrepreneur / leader?
I think that they have to have the power to influence, and that is across lots of things. They have to be able to move other people. And you can define sales as the ability to get people to comply with your request. You can define leadership the same way. Management, marketing to a degree is getting people to comply with a larger request, publicly. But I think that fundamentally is a skill that people have to have if they're going to be successful at entrepreneurship. They have to have tremendous drive, whether that's a combination of towards or away. So they have a big mission that they really want to achieve, or they have some very big fear that they're running away from. Either way, I think the fuel works, just from a pure entrepreneurship perspective. The third piece is impulse control, is that they have to be able to say no to things on a regular basis for an extended period of time. And I think they have to be able to boil down the success of their business into inputs and outputs. Like, if you do not know the inputs that are going to get the output that you want, then what are you doing? And so I think for most entrepreneurs, like, if they have those things, if they have the ability to lead other people / sell, just influence, they have some big motivator, they can control themselves long enough to keep on going during that period of time, and they are doing the right things because they know the inputs and outputs to be successful or to create the thing that they want, becomes a very difficult person to beat.
On that first point then, sales.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I read in some of your work is this idea that if everybody just went and spent 2 years doing door-to-door sales, then...
Oh my God.
Why is that important? Why do you think door-to-door sales is a key thing?
I think it's just for broader definitions for the audience, I think it's just high volume transactional sales. So whether that's you doing door-to-door, or you cold calling, or you working the front desk at a gym where you do 20 consults a day, like just having a high volume, because in order to learn a skill, you want to have as much exposure as you can to repeat the action. And then you want quick feedback loops so that you can learn what you did wrong. So the perfect scenario would be mentor, mentee, repeated exposure, fix this, try again, fix this, try again. And in sales, if you can survive that long, then you are good enough that you will have gotten enough feedback. Like, for most people, if they can weather the first 3 months of sales, then they'll usually be fine. And so for the people who are coming up, I always tell them, like, go shadow the best guy and do twice the volume he's doing, because you're not as good as him. So, like, do twice the volume that they're doing, work all of the hours, and you will get better faster because you have to suck for X period of time. And so if you can condense how long that takes you in terms of calendar days, not hours, you can get there faster. But I think that it's important because, one, you have to learn how to get rejected and still keep going. And I think that's a very valuable skill. And then 2, there's lots of like little things that you learn in just interpersonal communication that you can use with teammates later. You can use in marketing, because a lot of the best marketers started as salespeople, and marketing is just sales one to many, at least as I understand it. And so having that kind of repetition just develops a deep understanding of human psychology, I think. And I think it's important if you want to get people to give you money for the thing that you have, having that as a base skill comes in handy.
I think a lot of people aren't orientated towards developing skills. I think they're orientated to lifestyle, to what I can post on Instagram, to cool, whatever's cool. But this idea of developing skills requires this thing that's kind of absent in modern culture, which is patience. And a lot, like you said, rejection. Who wants that? There was no glamour in what you said, Alex.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of us want traits, right? We want to be patient. We want to be humble. We want to be, long suffering, whatever words you want to use. But in order to, if I would say, hey, how would you if you had to create a human, what would you put them through to make them tough? It probably wouldn't be a really chill life.
Yeah.
What would you put them through to make them patient? Well, you probably wouldn't give them things immediately. And so it's like, we want these traits, but each of the traits has a price tag attached to it. And it's just like, do you want to pay the price tag to get the thing? And so I think if people reframed the period of life that they're going through as the price that they're paying out of their wallet, but the wallet is their time, it's the seconds of life that they're trading for it, then I think more people will be willing to make the trade. Because at least when I look at myself, like when I'm 80 something years old and I'm looking back on my life, I want to have these traits. But in order to have those traits, I know I have to go through these things. And I think for me, that's given me a lot of comfort in hard times.
One of the things that kind of adjacent to that, which causes patience, is the belief that you are at some point going to get there.
Yeah.
So like, it's all well and good you saying to me, you do this for 5 years, Steve, and you'll build the skill. But I go, well, listen, if I want to be a millionaire, and I have low self-belief, I'm going to have low conviction. So I'm not even going to take the bet.
Yeah.
So how does one build that self-belief? Self-belief is such an interesting thing because it feels like this real, it's clear to some degree that you had it in that moment of turmoil. It also, the reason I say to some degree is because it didn't seem like you had a plan B anyway. So I'm like, you were already in your parents-in-law's like playroom or whatever. So
I had nothing to lose.
Yeah, you had nothing to lose. So I don't know how much self-belief is applicable, but regardless, to keep gracing those hurdles, you need some kind of conviction that like this is the right way to go. How do people build that?
So I hear that, and to echo the point you just made, I hated my current existence, and so I think some people like don't hate their current existence enough, and so like I don't think you either have to really believe that this thing's going to happen, or you have to know that your life sucks, and I knew that my life sucked, and so I knew that if I did something else, it would have a higher likelihood of changing my life than not doing something, and at least that's how I would say that I probably saw it in the beginning. It's like I didn't know if it was going to work, but I knew that I wasn't going to stop.
I heard a quote some 10 years ago, which just came to mind when you said that, on some YouTube family vlog, where he said, change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of making a change. Yeah. And in your situation now, it sounds like, well, this is less painful.
100%. I think that's the basis of most change. Either you have to have a reward that incentivizes you. It's the away towards or away. It's either we're going away from pain or we're going towards pleasure. And I think a lot of people are really looking for that passion that's going to be towards. But I think early days, and I talk a lot about this, but like I think negative motivation is poo-pooed too much. Like if you are angry, use it. If you are sad, use it. Because like, what else are you going to do with it? Like you might as well let it help you. Like, or it uses you. You know what I mean? And so I always like to see when I was in my earlier days, I felt like I was wielding my anger at least in a direction. And I think also a lot of people think that they have to get like it right on the first shot. But one of the beliefs that I had was that I just want to be directionally correct. Like if I move, I know that I don't like this. And so this way is not where I am. And so I will start taking steps this way. And from the story that you at least heard, it's like, I'll ping pong a little bit to try and directionally move that way. And it's funny because Caleb's seen plenty of things from what we do at acquisition.com where we're like, we'll try it out. And if it doesn't work, then we're like, oops. All good.